Some people are always defensive. Today, let's look at why this happens and what you can do about it. The first thing that can cause people to be defensive is the fear of criticism, because they see criticism as a personal attack. And because they think you're attacking them, it causes them to become defensive. And just to give an example, if someone says to you, you never do anything right, you're always messing up, so that's an example of negative criticism. But if the person says to you, you know what, I would appreciate it if next time you didn't do X, but you did Y. That is more constructive. Another thing that can cause people to become prone to being defensive is the perception of threat. Basically, what happens is that once you criticize them or once you say something to them, and maybe you're generally just trying to help them, their brains perceive that as a threat. And even if it's a non-threatening situation, like for example, with the example I said, if the person says to you, can I please ask that next time, please don't put the juice on the table, please put it in the fridge. That's non-threatening, right? But then the person perceives that as a threat and they then react in a defensive way. Because, often when we are criticized or when people are giving us feedback, we get what is called a fight or a flight response. So for some people, when you say something to them, even if it's constructive criticism, they may want to fight back because they see it as a threat, as I've just explained. And some people, when you do try to correct them, maybe in a positive way, and it's not necessarily a threat, they may not respond to it. So basically, they would just respond in a passive aggressive way without delving further. Yeah, it's important to learn to differentiate between just criticism that is just negative for the sake of being negative, as well as when somebody is giving you constructive feedback that will actually help you. So if you are finding this video helpful, please like it and share it with a friend who you think could benefit from it. Another thing is our egos. Some of us want our egos to be stroked all the time because we've got this perception that we are so important, and that when people come to us with feedback, especially feedback, as I've explained, which we perceive to be negative, we become defensive because it gives us like a knock on our ego. Because you see, the problem is that if you allow your inflated ego to cause you to become defensive, when somebody is genuinely giving you constructive feedback, this can cause you to stagnate because you won't grow. Because like I've always said, we are all a work in progress. And if you're not growing, if you're not changing, if you're not unlearning, if you're not relearning things, you're stagnating. So if you want to get out of that rut, especially if you know that your ego tends to get in the way, it's important to, as I said earlier, to truly introspect and look at, is this really somebody who's just trying to be negative and telling me that I always mess up and I never do anything right? Or is there somebody who's genuinely giving me feedback that will help me? You need to be able to differentiate between the two without becoming overly defensive. Okay, so it's important to realize that there are certain things that can cause people to become prone to defensiveness, as I've said. The first one being fear of criticism. This is comes from a sense of feeling anxious about the possibility of being judged, especially when somebody's criticizing you. And as a result of that fear, it may cause you to perceive threats where there are none, because your brain senses that, okay, this person is criticizing me, therefore I'm in danger. I must protect myself. So what I would encourage you to do is not to allow your ego to cause you to become defensive. I would like to encourage you, if you want to improve how you communicate with difficult people, to see the link in the description below on a free crash course on communicating with difficult people, so that you can start learning practical strategies on how to do this.